What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. It's World Cup Day. It's here. It's finally here. It feels weird that we're still doing a preview video because the World Cup literally kicks off this evening. France versus New Zealand is the first game up. It's on tonight. We've got a preview video out for this one along with a bunch of other games. Basically, I've tried to cover as many games as I can do, but this one is going to be for Wales versus Fiji. What an exciting game going on in Pool C. Pool C's one of the more exciting pools of the tournament for me because I genuinely think any team can beat any other team. It's really weird to be going into a World Cup where it feels like actually so many teams are really competitive, really can qualify. In the big prediction video I did, I had Wales and Fiji to qualify, but it could just as likely be Australia and Fiji, Wales and Georgia. Like, any team can just turn up on the day. So this one I'm really looking forward to. As we do in these preview videos, we're going to have a run through the teams that have been announced to play in this game on the weekend. Have a run through the picks, who's some good picks, some bad picks, some thoughts on the team, some thoughts now we think the game might go, and finally, of course, giving that all-important score prediction. They'll most likely be terribly, terribly wrong. If you enjoy this style of video, make sure to drop it a like, and if you want to keep up to date with all the latest videos and want to show your support for the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button because it really does help out the smaller channels on YouTube, especially with how many rugby videos there are currently around the World Cup. So starting out then with the Wales team. Now, Wales and Fiji are going into this one kind of level pegging with they both played England in the warm-up games. Wales won one, then lost one, then Fiji played England. They won that game. These two in the past have had some mega clashes. I've been to see a number of Wales-Fiji games down in the Principality, and it's always a thoroughly enjoyable watch in terms of how good the rugby is. I went and saw this matchup a couple of years back. It was in the November sort of internationals, and Fiji looked like they were going to win that game, and then I remember there being a really awkward red card that just sort of ruined Fiji's game for them. But Fiji looked absolutely fantastic. So Wales know. They know what's coming up against them. They will have seen that game that happened against England. Gatlin was over in Twickenham watching that game very closely and probably paying great attention to it. So the team that's been announced for Wales is pretty much across the board the whole team you expect, right? This is about as big as the Wales team gets with who's available and not through injuries and so on. So we'll have a run through. Gareth Thomas, Ryan Elias and Tom Francis will be taking on this front row. It's going to be a physical game. These lads need to be ready. Ryan Elias back in the side after the first 5 minutes of his opening game in the World Cup warm-ups, picked up that injury. So Elliot Dean moving to the bench, even though I think he's been doing okay actually in terms of that hooker position. A couple of people get annoyed sometimes when I talk about Ryan Elias and about his throwing, and it's never quite on point for me, but this will be a big game for him to make sure you land those throws correctly, make sure you put pressure on Fiji at the lineup, because a lot of the different areas, the breakdown, the scrummaging, Fiji are going to be well up for it. Getting involved with that lineup and having a secure platform to actually set off from is going to be a really, really big advantage of this game. So let's hope Ryan Elias has a good one in terms of the lineouts. In the lock department, Will Rowlands and Adam Beard were taking that 4 and 5 shirt. Now, a couple of people saying Adam Beard shouldn't even be in the team. People are really mad about Adam Beard. Realistically, the lock department for Wales is one area that is struggling a lot. They lost a lot of people going over to play in Japan, people retiring like Alan Wynne-Jones. Dada Jenkins has been coming in more recently, and it doesn't feel like depth is really there for the lock department. So Will Rowlands, Adam Beard is probably, for me, the two best choices we have currently. And Will Rowlands, again, as I sort of say whenever I mention his name, just keep out the penalties. Keep out the penalties. He'll probably have a really good game, but sometimes penalties do get the better of him in some of these games. And then finally, in the back three, Aaron Wainwright's moving to the blindside flanker as he's been playing number 8 across the World Cup warm-ups. Jack Morgan in that open side flanker, and Talupe Faletau returns to that number 8 shirt. Now, Aaron Wainwright did better than I expected across the World Cup warm-ups. I thought he had some really, really good games. He was very, very important in that first game going on against England. Jack Morgan's been one of the standouts for Wales, probably, the last year and a half. I think Jack Morgan's absolutely superb, so I'm glad to see him, in there. He's got his name as his captaincy. Dewi Lake was also like the co-captain, but he's not playing this one, so Jack Morgan, solid captain. Looking forward to seeing him, and the return of Talupe Faletau. Who doesn't love a bit of a number 8 charging down the wing, as he does. In the halfback partnership, Gareth Davis and Dan Biggar, experienced heads, probably what you expect. I wouldn't be surprised in this game if Wales just take the threes. Anytime they come along, just take the threes. I think they know that this game could well be a one-score game. Whereas maybe in the past you would look at this game and Wales would go in as heavy favourites. I really don't think there's heavy favourites in this. I think both teams have a really good start with this one, so 3 points will be incredibly important. Dan Biggar just needs to be slotting through those kicks every so often when they can get the opportunity. In the centre partnership, Nick Tompkins and George North. This is what I, expected. This is the sort of centre partnership that Pivac was working with. Gatland has just sort of carried on with it as well. No need to swatch up. Maybe Johnny Williams could have get a looked in here, but maybe he'd be the sort of lad who get injured in this game just because he puts his body on the line against some massive players from the Fiji team. George North has been stepping up more recently in terms of that defensive line from a centre position in scramble defence, so I'm glad to see him in there. Nick Tompkins has had his issues when it comes to defence. Sometimes he lands these superb tackles that completely shut down an attack, and then sometimes can just fall off a tackle. And what we got to see from Fiji going up against England is they were making, what was it, on average like 5 metres after contact, just driving through. You've got to get these lads down as soon as possible. Luckily, Wales have been working a lot more on that sort of blitz defence going up, and hopefully that would sort of mitigate how much of a charge up some of the Fijian attackers get, but these lads are probably in for quite a long day. And then finally, in the back three, Josh Adams, Lewis Rees-Zammit and Liam Williams. Again, this is what I would expect going across the board. I feel like these lads are going to be tested a lot more defensively this week as opposed to being used as get it out to the wing and let them go on the attack. I feel like this is probably the better defensive wingers, especially for Wales at the minute. Josh Adams and Zammit are probably my two favourite defensive wingers for Wales as they stand. And maybe in terms of the attack, maybe Wales, I really think they should just grasp this game and try and take the offensive line, but it's not how Wales have been playing. They're doing a lot more of this sit back and absorbing thing. I think Fiji's one of the worst teams you can do that against. I would like to see Wales be more attacking, but I doubt they'll make that huge game shift for this one. So it might be more of a case where these lads are going to be tested defensively, and if it so happens to open up, at least someone like Josh Adams and Zammit both have the pace to go on a counter-attack and maybe even score a try from your own 22 all the way up the field. So it might be what they look for all day. It'd be a lot more defensive action rather than seeing them in the open channels, making those huge attacking lines, and then the counter-attack might be very, very important. But 1 to 15, this is about as good as it gets for Wales, which goes to show the improvements that Fiji have had. In the past, you might have seen a bit of a lesser Wales team going up against Fiji. They know they can't afford that this year going into this World Cup, and they've had to put out the big guns, especially with, Australia coming up in a couple of weeks. Injury concerns will also be hanging around them. In the substitutions, Elliot Dee, Domachowski, and Dylan Lewis will be coming on in that second half. Now, Domachowski's had a couple of issues. He's still low on caps, hasn't had that much game time. And through the World Cup warm-ups, the scrummaging certainly looked like it was struggling a bit. It might be one area that Fiji feel kind of confident in, actually going into that second half, maybe when they get a couple of substitutions on. Bit of a lesser capped prop in Domachowski. They might look to start really trying to put down the hammer in that. We'll see how he gets on. And then in the replacement forwards alongside them, David Jenkins and Tommy Raffel getting in there. Although I really kind of hope Jack Morgan is on for the game, because I think he's very good. I'm not sure how they'll do this. Now, Talupe Falatau's not had that much game time as well. There might be at some point that you get to see Tommy Raffel come on and Falatau go off, and Aaron Wainwright will move back to 8, just to try and keep Falatau safe for that Australia game. I personally, though, would really like to see Jack Morgan play the full game. Wales have also shifted a little bit about with moving like Jack Morgan into the 6 shirt, so it could even be that Jack Morgan goes to 6, Aaron Wainwright goes to 8, and then Tommy Raffel goes to 7. So there's a bit of versatility in that back row, which is nice to see. And then finally, in the replacement backs, Thomas Williams, Sam Costello, and Rio Dyer. So maybe adding a bit of attack on in that second half. Maybe they're hoping that Fijian fatigue kicks in, even though I didn't see it at Twickenham. I didn't really see them slowing down that much. I'm not sure how Rio Dyer will get on. While he's superb in attack, his defence has been a little bit questionable for me, and going up against some of the lads that you see in the Fiji team, I think Rio Dyer might struggle a little bit in terms of the defensive of this one. Another one that might happen to is Sam Costello, whereas I think he's more probably defensively sound than Rio Dyer. I think his problem for me is sometimes that he can get a little bit panicked when he's rushed by a defence, especially if he's got to make the kicking option. I might have lent towards Gareth Hanscom for this one. A bit more experience, a few more caps, more used to taking a massive shot. Maybe I would have lent more towards Gareth Hanscom for this one, but we'll see how they get on. Overall, really, really good Wales team. Nice to see them showing that they have a great amount of respect for this Fiji team because, man, I think Fiji are going to absolutely look to target this game. And it could be a decider for them whether or not they manage to qualify from Pool C. Really, really important stuff. Moving on to the Fiji team then, who've announced only one change from that team that went on to play England at Twickenham. And it's not even a tactical change. It's a really unfortunate change that came from, if you didn't see in the community post earlier this week, Muntz has picked up an injury that has actually ruled him out of the World Cup. And what a blow for Fiji that is. I thought he was absolutely instrumental in that game over in Twickenham. So unfortunately for Caleb Muntz, we won't be seeing him in this World Cup, which is a real shame. I thought he did absolutely fantastically. So there's been one change to this team from the team that played in Twickenham. That's only at fly half. So we'll have a quick run through of the team. Now again, my Fijian knowledge, not the greatest, so apologies for any mispronunciations of names and stuff on the front of it. I really do try my best. In this front row, Maui, Matavesi and Tagu again, that's scrummaging. I think this is a really solid front row for them. They look like they wanted to compete up against England over in Twickenham. Wales will have to be very careful of what this Fijian scrum can bring. One of the other joys that the Fiji have is so many of these lads are so big. Sometimes we see, red cards, yellow cards, double injury in a position in the scrum can cause a real issue. You see a back get chucked into the scrum, you're like, what are they doing there? They're not going to belong there. Fiji are probably one of the few teams where pretty much any of the backs are so massive. Even if they go down a man in the scrum, they just chuck a back in. They probably don't lose anything. They probably gain weight, if anything. So they've got some really good versatility in there. But who needs them when we've got, some of their massive bolstering forwards? Tuisui and Vilami Mata, again, they were absolutely fantastic over in Twickenham. So I'm looking forward to see how they get on in this game. I'm sure they're going to be carrying that ball incredibly hard up to the line and giving that Wales defence some real issues. Frank Lamani and Teller will now be going in that halfback partnership. So we'll see how Teller gets on. Not a lad I know a lot about. I haven't heard that they brought anyone else in terms of the fly half position. I did think maybe Ben Vola would get brought back into the team. At the minute, I haven't seen any sort of announcement to say that anyone else is coming in. So currently Teller stands out alone as that fly half. They do have Joe Assisi in the fullback position. I'm not sure if he's also capable of playing fly half. If we have any Fijian subscribers, which I really hope we do, feel free to drop that down in the comments. Is he a sort of lad that can move into that fly half if you really need him to? Because they do also have Makala on the bench, who I think is a fullback. So I'm not sure who takes over that 10 position if a fly half does pick up an injury. Maybe they just say screw it to having a fly half. They just chuck on another winger and let them smash through the line. In terms of the back line then for Fiji, some massive names in there. Of course, that centre partnership, Semi Ranjradra alongside of Naya Kaleva, and what a return he had in that game over in Twickenham. Coming back in as captain now, an absolute nightmare to look out for. I wouldn't be surprised if this lad's in a lot of people's fantasy teams. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And then in the back three, Habosi goes in alongside of Ravatumauda and Drarosisi. Again, apologies for any pronunciations. Really trying my best here. On the right wing though, Ravu Taumada, again, another very impressive player. Not someone I knew a lot about going into that game watching over in Twickenham, so I kept a bit of a close eye on him. He was causing massive issues for that English defensive line, cutting back inside, running back, finding those lines, getting the offload, people on his shoulder. Another real threat for Wales to watch out for. And then in terms of the bench, a couple of big names coming back in for this Fijian team as well. Lavani Bhatia coming back in alongside of Joshua Tuisova. My God, in terms of having replacements on the bench, Fiji just have some monster men to come on. Actually looking across the bench, I kind of feel like the Fiji bench might have more of an impact into this game than the Wales bench. So as this game gets on, when we talk about, like tier 2 sides, which feels wrong to say anymore because Fiji are higher ranked than Australia, Wales and Georgia at the minute. But when you think about those sides, there's a lot of talk that goes on about that fatigue that kicks in 60, 70 minutes and how it goes. Having lads like that come on to bolster, and Fiji seem to be, pushing that full 80 minutes now and having big lads to come on. I really don't see Fiji slowing down in this game. I don't think this is a game that Wales can afford to sit back, absorb the attack and hope they eventually go on the counter-attack. I think this game needs to be taken to Fiji because that looks like a very impressive team. In terms of a score prediction then, my God, what do we think for this one? Well, this one, there's a lot of factors going into this one, right? This is probably the first time we've seen the Wales full team play together, maybe since like the Six Nations. So they're going to be, seeing how that team all links back up together, because they've been playing a bit of half and half throughout the World Cup warm-ups. One of you guys did let me know, really important thought, which I didn't actually think about at all, the temperature. Over in France, it's incredibly warm this weekend. It is going to be a very hot game to play in. Now, over here in Wales, we're not used to that hot weather, so the lads will probably be struggling. We're going to hope they've acclimatised quite well to this game. The Fiji boys, though, probably well up for it. Probably well up for some really hot weather. So that'll probably be a really big bonus in terms of, the Fiji game plan as well. I feel like Wales will probably be playing this game a lot more, professionally. They'll just take the 3 points every time they come along. We might even look to get drop goals in this game, which I really don't feel like teams use a lot, but just to get more points on the board from those entries into the 22. Wales, I just see holding back in defence and hoping for a counter-attack. I see Fiji going on a much more aggressive stance. Unfortunately, the loss of Muntz for Fiji sort of really feels like a really big blow. It's one of the few areas where I was like, man, I really hope we get to see this lad go through, because his professionalism when it came to exiting out of the 22 felt really important. His kicking towards the post felt really important. We'll have to see how Teller gets on, because I don't know a lot about him. I really feel like this game could go either way. Genuinely, this could be whichever way the teams turn up or just happen to be in for this game. One card changes this game completely. One injury in a key position changes this game completely. I'm still leaning towards Wales. You guys disagreed. I did a poll over on the channel. Currently, it stands at 67% of you guys think Fiji to win this one. I really think Wales will come out with a different attitude to this game compared to some of the other ones. I think they might lose some of the other ones. But I feel against Fiji might be the game they really push very hard for. I'm going to say a Wales win, even though I'm sure most people probably disagree with me on this one. And I'm going to say Wales to win by a very small margin. I'm going to say Wales to win by 2. I think they just about scrape by this one. But then again, Fiji got such a massive team. I wouldn't be surprised if Fiji win this by like 10, to be honest. I feel like they could come out the blocks and absolutely smash this game. Could go either way. One of the most exciting games on this weekend. Hopefully you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. Make sure you are getting your predictions up on the Subaru. You have very limited time now, because that first game is kicking off this evening from France versus New Zealand. So make sure you're getting all those picks in. I spent a good hour and a half looking at my fantasy team last night, having no idea what to do. So a great deal of fun. I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.